What's up, everybody? Welcome back to I1 Entertainment. We are here post swap episode 6. John, confess. How are you feeling right now?
Uh, Feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Would you rather start with swap stuff or would you want to go back in time?
We could just go back in time quickly. So episode 5 consisted of the Guess That Image challenge. How do you think Amity still works together during that immunity?
Yeah, honestly, especially after the performance that we had in the one before, which was a totally different challenge, but with stuff like guessing and being able to communicate and talk things out, I wasn't worried once we saw the description and then I don't know. I feel like with lots of these challenges, even though you're not saying the results straight away, you have a feeling whether you did good or bad, even if you don't necessarily know, getting nearly a perfect score on that was all right, we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good over here. So yeah, I think all our decisions up to this point, keeping the four strongest people was the best move and I got us through.
How are you feeling about your position on Ametista?
Um, from the original one, I was still feeling pretty good, right? Especially
Yeah.
with the four of them, again, the original Amatistas, I didn't really see anything to immediately worry about. To be honest, down the road, especially now that we've swapped, I'll probably have to think about it, especially if all four of us go through. I would be naive to think that everybody, all four of our games are just gonna revolve around one another. Of course, I'm gonna want to go back and work with those people that I had the early loyalty with, but I'm sure they have swaps and are now out there kind of doing their own thing just as well as I am, right? So I feel, again, I like those four people. Now that we've swapped, I think on paper, this is a pretty shitty swap, right? It's three people from the same original tribe plus three randoms. The caveat is though, right? Those three people haven't been to tribal yet together, and they haven't really had to test anything with one another. So as far as yesterday I called with Maddie, right? He made it seem like you know they hadn't talked a lot, not strategized or whatever. I figure that they have strategized just because again they haven't had to know if they're going to tribal, so they probably have at least talked as a group a little bit, but I feel like it's not completely a lost cause. It's not a three that have been set in stone working together, right? I think it'd be much different of an equation. Let's say if it was all three of the people from Rubino swapped and they were together, right? I don't know what panned out at their last tribal, but I would like to think that the three of them might have more of a history that I have to be worried about than three people who, from what it seems have only scratched the surface and haven't actually had to strategize heavily.
Before I ask questions about episode 6, the end of episode 5, y'all win immunity, and what were your thoughts on the Red Tribe and Shemayim getting voted out?
I think okay, because I also don't know that we've talked about this. So I sat in on the tribal right before that, right?
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I had a little taste of what was going on there. And for me, it was this very interesting thing because the notes that I took about their tribal were oh, they were all buddy buddy, everything's going on, everything's going super well, love each other, blah blah blah. But again, very surface level, kind of it has been for my tribe, from what it sounds like what it's been for Zafiro as well, right? So, but then Julia was blindsided, where me sitting in on that tribal, I don't know that I agree that that was a blindside because she was like literally talking about things that she was doing that was alienating herself from the group. Like she left the tribal using a power. There was something else too. Like she, like I feel like she was really like sticking herself out there like a sore thumb. So I was like sitting there as an observer, like that is probably who's going home. The fact that it came down to like a 2 to 1 to 1, right? Like that is certainly interesting. Seeing Shemayim go afterwards, like I didn't really know what to think. I think I got more of a reaction. I think like when we were doing the swap, Thomas said something along the lines of like, "Oh, he was so excited to get out of there after the last tribal," and I couldn't decide if what he meant was like, "Oh, like because we're down to 3 people, like I'm so excited to be out of there," or like because it was spicy, right? And the fact that all 4 of them were active on the tribe, at least at the previous tribal, and then going into this, I can imagine that it was actually like a flavorful tribal. I can. Um, yeah, that answers your
Now,
question.
yeah, it sure does. Now, were you anticipating the swap from
Yeah,
the second announcement?
we were, I think, anticipating it. I was anticipating it like basically every round after the first like 3.
Mhm.
Like we were expecting it, like so. I knew it was like coming. It was on the precipice, like, and to be honest, I felt like it was the right time for it, right? Like just as you were kind of like settling into your laurels, like all right, like I've established a relationship with this like beginning tribe. It was the right time because to be honest, it was getting a little snoozy, right? Like so, I feel like it came at the right time. Gives everybody the chance to go spread out, talk to more people, and see what happens.
How are you
Yeah.
feeling now? You remain on Amethysta, and you're the only one of the 4 on this tribe. So pretty much your entire camp was like invaded by new faces. That could either be a really good thing or a really bad thing in Survivor. So like what was like your immediate reaction?
Immediately, I was like, "Oh shit, I have to start over." Like, it's not fun, right? Like, you put in all this like groundwork trying to like get to know people, and then you're like having to do that over again is never fun. I think I approached it largely in the same way, though, like that I did with the first time. Just like again, trying to be present. I definitely showed that in the challenge. Like I don't think there's any dispute that I was like there going for the gold. And on top of that, like I've been doing my best to actually connect with everybody and be approachable, right? Like I think when it comes down to it, like especially people are scrambling last minute for a vote, they're going to go to the people that are approachable first, right, to talk to. So I think I've already put in some good work. I think, like obviously you can never be certain, right? Like there's a group literally of 3 people that were all in the same tribe. As much as they want to say they've never been to tribal together, haven't had to like test loyalty. Well, like now you are all in the same tribe still. If you've like actually gotten to know each other, I don't know why you would really defect from that. So I anticipate those 3, like if like they don't already have a thing, creating something to at least get themselves through to the next stage. I think what's nice is that I myself have connected individually with all 3 of them. So I don't feel all 3 of them being Maddie, Rachel, and Robin kind of like connected, I think, to each of them in like that order, right? Like Maddie being the most, Robin the least, but I still feel like I have a good like starting rapport with the 3 of them to where like if something like that happens, the 3 of them stick together. I feel like I wouldn't A necessarily be targeted, B might get approached to like be pulled in, which will kind of get me through to the next stage.
How do you think your tribe fared in the immunity challenge, and what did you think of it? You definitely impressed me by all the shit that you did, but walk me
Thank
through it.
you. I impressed myself as well. So like I don't know, I was like at home, like I said, like rainy, dreary day. So my goal was just to like do everything that I could, and like I didn't, I like popped in every like for like hour or two, did a couple, went away, came back, did a couple, which was great. I think I mean I had fun with it. Did I know that I could do a headstand? No, I knew it was possible, but I didn't know that I would actually be able to do that. So like I impressed myself as well. I think a lot of the tasks that were on there were just kind of like mustering up the courage to do it versus like them actually being like hard to do, like there was, I think the ones that I ended up having the most funs with were like, all right, I have all the stuff to bob for apples, time to do it, you know? Um, so yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I wanted to show that I'm like a good, reliable tribe member. I mean, that's what it's all about. I think especially in me and Maddie's conversation yesterday, like, there's I'm not gonna be great at everything. So in something like this where like you literally just get points for trying, I don't think is like a negative in the column. Like, yeah,
You think that your tribe has scored enough points to be safe for
I
this
do.
episode?
I do. I obviously don't know if it is one tribe losing, two tribes losing, but I think regardless of either situation, like sure there are some tasks on the list that I feel like it's possible that like there's stuff that we didn't do that it's possible that other tribes would have done. But I also think the opposite is true, right? There's plenty of stuff that we did that there's like other tribes probably did not do. And I feel like our tribe went above and beyond to where like unless literally both other groups went as above and beyond, then I would be worried. But think I just don't think so. Like even our least active people were still like kind of pulling in weight. So yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
If your tribe ends up losing or like lost right now and you had to cast a vote, where would it be going and why?
Good question. Um, I think that the easiest way forward for me would be if the vote was on Izzy for two reasons. One being that, like I said, I feel like I was most committed to, or not committed, I was most connected to the three and Zafiro individually. So if we were to put something together, that would come together the most easily, kind of within the confines of the game. Um, Secondly, like it's not that she didn't do anything. I feel like she wasn't as much present than the other group. So it would be kind of like an easy criteria to kind of go towards. Plus, I feel like in the meta game of it, Perla is the next largest group starting than Zafiro, and they've already been to tribal together. From what it sounds like that might be a way to go. When I was talking to Maddie last night, he seemed pretty like open. Like basically I basically asked, I was just like, oh, like, because me and him were connecting. We were like, all right, we'll look out for each other. I don't want us to go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And then I asked, I was just like, oh, like, do you feel like you've gotten to like, connect and I forget how I said it, but it was just like, like trying to kind of feel out where he was with Rachel and Robin. And he was like, he didn't say that he was like just so connected. He hasn't had to test loyalty with them. But being that they already have a relationship, I feel like that's kind of like a natural course for things to go. It's not like it's again, I'm in the three that I'm ready to like draw rocks for Izzy and Marcelo and divide it 3-3. It's just like not the case.
Any concern that Izzy does go, you and Marcelo are the next easiest boots because Zafiro, just based on original tribes, are like, hey, we have majority now.
I mean, sure. Um, I mean, sure, right? Like, I'd be stupid to think that was not possible. I just think like this game moves in such a way that like, you got to kind of worry about what's in front of you at the present, right? Like, this is what's going to get me through to the next stage. Sure, the three of them through this entire section of the game might stay together, but I also know that like shit can happen to where like if one of them starts questioning one of the other ones, whatever, like it can very easily change, right? So I think for right now, even though the tribal could happen tonight, I still need to like kind of sit back, be like this open receptacle for things, let people come to me and decide that like, hey, like they want to work with me long term, kind of regardless of what tribes came in, right? Like I think just as like I would be naive to think that I would be on the bottom if like one of these random three went home besides the three Zafiro members, like I think they over there would be equally as naive to think that they're gonna like make it through on that tribe of six. That's just like not how it works. So they do need to come over to me as well. And they have been.
Does having the idol from Ametista make you feel like you have a little bit of a safety net?
Definitely, but it's not one that you can like rely on, right? Because with having an idol, like you need to know to use it, right? Like you need to know enough anyway that like you're getting votes. So like, and also like I don't want to use it now, right? Like it gives you an extra safety net, right? Like if I find out that things are coming my way, which I think I've done enough work to where like if things were going my way, I would find out or be able to suss it out, right? Like I've done enough, I think, to really get that. So it helps, but I don't plan on just relying on that.
Got it. You have anything else you want to mention?
Um, no, I'm trying to think. Not particularly, not that I can think of.
Alrighty. You are all good for episode 5, episode 6. If your tribe loses, your vote will count. Yeah, that's pretty much it.